This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast Mailbag. It is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. Welcome, everybody, to the show. We're going to get to your emails, your voicemails in just a moment. But first, if you're new here, it's WrestleMania season. And if you're just joining us, a lot of new listeners coming on, didn't know we existed. Well, welcome. If you want to join a really cool Discord server to chat with other great wrestling fans, join Patreon, my friends. You get an ad-free experience as well at patreon.com/WWE Podcast. And so before we get going and my normal plugs of the show and the ad-free stuff you can find everywhere on Apple Podcasts, everything, I will be attending a Monday Night Raw live in Albany, New York, May 29th. And it's significant for a couple of reasons. And that is, number one, I haven't been to a WWE event from a personal perspective in years. And specifically, even a Monday Night Raw. I think the last event I went to, this is crazy, I believe the last event I went to was Raw 25 in Brooklyn. That's when Austin stunned Vince and stunned Shane, and they did the dual program in Manhattan, in the Manhattan Center as well. So it's been many years, too many years since I've attended, obviously COVID having a lot to do with that. But I'll be attending live. And it's also important because I got some pretty badass seats. I'll be camera side, right in the section that is, it's lower, it's not on the floor, but it's the first level up, first row, right on the hard cam side where the camera points, not where the cameras are. So that means I should be very, very near and dear to millions of you out there. What I'm going to try to do is bring my sign in. Again, I'm not going to make it overly big because I know there are restrictions in sign sizes and things, but I'll bring my podcast sign if they don't confiscate it, and I will see if I can get myself on air and get myself some free advertising. I have a feeling I'll get pulled pretty quickly, but I'll have a backup sign or two just in case that happens. So I'll be attending again, and that's significant from that perspective that I'll be hopefully on camera a few times, but also because that is 2 days after Roman Reigns is crowned the 1,000-day champion. Now, there are things you have to assume or presume rather in order for us to get there, right? Like Roman Reigns has to beat Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania some hook way, and then he has to get all the way through to the end of May to get there. Now, there are reports that there's going to be a Saudi Arabia event May 27th, which is the actual 1,000th day for whoever his opponent is. Maybe it's Jey Uso, who knows, in Saudi Arabia. And then 2 days later, they're coming all the way to Albany, New York for Monday Night Raw. Now, I don't know if that Saudi Arabia event is confirmed. It would make sense that it is. It would make sense that it is going to be they love their Saudi Arabia events, a lot of money in that, and Saturday has been their go-to for those days, and so all things seem to be lining up. So if Roman Reigns does indeed make 1,000 days, and you can bet your ass that he will, they're going to be in Albany, New York for his 1,000-day celebration, you would imagine, the following 2 nights. So I'll be there for the presumed, again, this is like 2 months out, but I'll be more than that, but I'll be there for the 1,000-day celebration on Monday Night Raw, May 29th, hopefully in your face. Again, I don't have front row, but I have the level up front row of the lower level, hard cam side center. So you'll see yours truly, hopefully there, and not getting signs confiscated. But anyway, enough about me. Let's get into the mailbag here. Dive in. I'm going to pull the first letter out here. I should have had like a sound effect for ruffling through letters. So this is from Thomas Franco. And he says, "Hey, Matt, hope you're having a good week so far. I'd like to discuss the main event of WrestleMania. I think the likely scenario is that Roman retains and makes it past 1,000 days as champion. However, what a lot of people aren't talking about is this Jey Uso subplot in the Bloodline story. At Elimination Chamber, they teased Jey turning on Roman with the steel chair shot. And last Monday on Raw, when Jey finally turned on Sami, there was a brief embrace before the turn. And it looked as if Jey had muttered something to Sami, to which Sami's expression looked shocked. What I think is going to happen is that the Usos will lose their belts at Mania. Roman will lose to Cody. The next week on SmackDown, Roman comes out and blames the downfall of the Bloodline on his brothers, where this will set up Jey versus Roman, Jimmy versus Roman, and Solo versus Roman in the next coming months. Cody might not be the guy we all plotted in our heads to beat Roman, but I think the storyline-wise it makes sense for Cody to win at Mania despite Roman's record as champion. That's all for me this week. Keep putting out great content. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it and hope all is well up there in Montreal. So I think, well, I guess I'm confused because you're suggesting that Roman, the likely scenario is that Roman retains and makes it past 1,000 days. Well, then how does he lose to Cody at Mania at the same time? Because that would cut his 1,000 days short at like 950 days or something like that. So I guess let's just move forward with your projection with Jey and then Jimmy and Solo all facing Roman. I think Solo versus Roman is the least intriguing. I mean, he plays the member of the Bloodline very well, kind of the stoic bodyguard of Roman, kind of the just do anything he says kind of character. And I like Solo from that perspective, but Solo versus Roman is not something I think people are really dying for. I think Jey versus Roman is much more intriguing. Jimmy versus Roman, people aren't as intrigued and connected to Jimmy like they are Jey. Jey has something. If you remember when Jimmy was injured and Jey and Roman first got together, Jey resisted Roman. And it was only when Jey was forced to submit to Roman and Jimmy came in to make the save. If you remember, it was an I Quit match and Jey had to say I quit, or Jimmy did on behalf of Jey. Remember the whole thing? I think we're going to get back to that. And I think Jey versus Roman is much more intriguing. There's much more of a story there than there is any of the other members of the Bloodline. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but there's other opponents too. I mean, yes, the Bloodline can have programs with one another, specifically Jey, and you could go back to Sami even. Probably not Kevin versus Roman one-on-one for a while. What about a returning Randy Orton? That whole storyline is almost coming up on a year since he was quote-unquote injured by the Bloodline. So Randy versus the Bloodline makes sense whenever he returns. So there's that. So obviously The Rock, LOL. At this point, it's a joke because I'm just done talking about it. It's just so frustrating. It's been going on for like 3, 4, 5 years now that we've been talking about this. More than that. Roman has other opponents. What about Gunther versus Roman? I know they're both heels. They're not in the right position from a character perspective, but there's that too. So my point is, you can go outside the Bloodline, but if you're just specifically talking about inter-Bloodline matches, Jey Roman is by far the most intriguing. But now that he turned on Sami, is that another plot just twist to Roman? I don't know. I mean, I doubt it. But I agree that the Usos are likely losing the belts, which is going to lead to more tension in the Bloodline. And Roman saying that they disgrace the family and treating them like garbage and raising the tensions, which is going to eventually make Jey Uso snap on Roman. And then Roman and Jey have a great program down the line. And we could be very well talking about Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia at the end of May. Maybe they don't go to Backlash. Maybe after Backlash is when Jey starts to get heated and they start to really get to a boiling point where Jey finally snaps on Roman, and then we're off to the races and Jimmy's conflicted and eventually sides with his brother, and then it's just Solo and Roman and the Bloodline's breaking down, right? I mean, there's so many ways to go. I think that's probably where they do go, though, after Mania. After maybe Cody has a program at Backlash, a rematch, loses there, and then we get to Jey. So that's my thought. All right. Thank you so much, Thomas. Let's get to GJ Kuzmo. He says, hello, WWE and AEW fam. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. And yet again, your champion, our champion, after a grueling 60-minute Iron Man match this past Sunday, Maxwell Jacob Friedman retains his AEW World Championship. Without a doubt, I see Max remaining champion probably until the end of the year. I enjoyed his press conference, munching on a jar of pickles and asking if anyone wanted a pickle. Absolutely hilarious, because it looked to me like he was mocking the same thing that Punk did almost a year ago at All Out on the press conference. Anyway, I can only imagine what Punk was thinking or saying when he saw Max's press conference, just counting down the months until MJF makes his decision about the future in AEW, or just out of the blue re-signs with AEW. Who knows? But just the crazy thought of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks potentially signing with WWE. There are AEW contracts almost expired, plus they already accomplished immediate championship success since AEW began a few years ago, and their former Bullet Club members are in the WWE, including Cody Rhodes. Okay, well, I know you've only got a little bit left here, but let me comment on this quickly. MJF is a brilliant man, and he lives his gimmick. He is the one true heel right now he is going for real heat. He doesn't change character when he's off camera. Like when the red light's off, you believe he's still that same guy. Not many men or women in the business are willing to do that. That's an old school mentality, right? Like back in the territory days before that wrestling went national and Vince took wrestling national and then eventually global. That was how you protected your character. You did not break character even when the camera went off. You were that person through and through the airports, anytime you're in public. And we've had this old school mentality with MJF, which is what makes him so great, on top of being so damn good on the mic. I did catch a little bit of the match. I saw the finish with Bryan Danielson, and very well received. And I'm with you that he probably remains champion until he makes his decision. One thing I'll take exception to, though, is that he's not going to re-sign out of nowhere with AEW. And he said that he won't. Last year, he just said that he's not going to do that because he knows to get the maximum value, you wait out the contract. You wait until the very last second to make the decision because that's when the highest offers come in. So he said he's not going to sign blindly with AEW without talking to WWE and getting an offer from them. I want to see him in AEW. WWE. I do. I know he's a massive foundational piece in AEW, and I wish nothing but success for the company. But in WWE, that's where, I'm sorry right now, that's where the big money is, and the bigger stages and the bigger audience. It just is. I mean, Tony Khan's got deep pockets, but WWE has been around for how long now, right? Like how many, 50, 60, 70 years? Like they're going to be around a long time. They may not always have the best storyline. The creative may be all screwy at times, but AEW's gone through some downsides too. I mean, AEW is not a perfect company by any means. And just imagine the programs that we can have MJF in WWE. Think about it. I just want him in WWE. But as far as the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, certainly possible. I mean, you guys follow this better than I do, so keep me updated. So speaking of Cody, the segment that he had with Roman Reigns this past Saturday was good. With some personal jab, I think you mean Friday, was good. With some personal jabs from Roman. There were no brawls, just promos, obviously saving the brawls for their WrestleMania match. I agree. I really hope that they wait until Mania to touch each other. That sounded really bad. You know what I mean, right? Like, I don't want them. The brawls don't always need to happen. Why can't the men or the women save the physicality for the event? Give us something to yearn for. There always doesn't need to be somebody hitting a finish on the other person, and then the next week it's the reverse, and the next week it's the reverse. Like, you know, sometimes waiting it out and wondering what it's going to be like is much more fun. Okay, finally, interesting fatal 5-way for the Intercontinental title this Friday. Well, I think it's the Intercontinental. It's not even the number one contendership. I think they just said it's going to be to put them in contention for the title. I mean, it was essentially a default number one contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship. That's what it was. They labeled it very strangely, though. So, but in my opinion, Creative could have just had a triple threat for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania of Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus. No offense to LA Knight and Karrion Kross. I just don't understand why they are included with Kofi in this fatal 5-way for Friday. Anyway, that's all for now. DJ signing off. Okay. Well, I think that's what most people want, is either Drew versus Gunther or Gunther versus Drew versus Sheamus. And I would actually, I like one-on-one, but again, Sheamus has really had a career year this year, and it's really almost difficult to imagine WrestleMania without Sheamus on the card this year. And so I think they'll probably go with a triple threat just to put Sheamus in there and reward him for like such a great year that he's had, kind of a reviving year for Sheamus. And not just the matches with Gunther, which were, I mean, he had literally a 5-star classic with Gunther a few months ago, but the Brawling Brutes, really good. Like the programs with Drew McIntyre earlier in the year, really good. So Sheamus has been, resurrected. So I think they'll do a triple threat, and they're just including those other guys so that it doesn't make it look like it's the same. It's the usual suspects, right? Like they're trying to make it look like other people are like, hey, if there's an open challenge here, I want it, right? If people are coming out challenging, I want a piece of that, which is the way it should be. They may not be on the same height on the totem pole that these other guys are, but it makes sense that if they're going to offer it in this way, that they would also, these guys like Karrion Kross, LA Knight, Kofi, would all also be like, hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring. That's why they're doing it. I mean, obviously there's no chance of them winning. All right, DJ, thank you. Let's get to Robert Nelson from the WWE Ringside podcast, and he says, there's a couple things I want to discuss with you. First, back in October and November when Bray was just returning, he was extremely hot. Everyone wanted to see him back. Fast forward 6 months, and he has seemingly fallen off a cliff. He went from serious Bray to goofy Bray ever since the reports of Vince being back. Have you seen a wrestler be so anticipated and hyped only to be ice cold in 6 months? Yeah, his name's Goldberg. Yes, Robert, Goldberg. But, I mean, Bray Wyatt's a conundrum. I was hot for him. You were hot for him. Everyone was. And you were thinking, okay, it's been a while. It's been a couple of years. He's probably had time to think about it. Triple H has said, hey, come up with some good stuff. There's no rush. Let's come up with a great storyline. You would imagine that's the way a conversation went. And when he came back, you're like, oh, wow, Uncle Howdy, the Fiend, but he's saying the Fiend's dead. He's saying the Firefly Funhouse is dead. It's just Bray. What is this? And then remember Bray attacking a cameraman? Remember that? And then he comes through this door of light. And you're like, whoa, and you're trying to put the pieces together. And then Uncle Howdy shows his face. And then Alexa Bliss is still connected. And then slowly, you're like, I don't really care who Uncle Howdy is anymore. That's not going to be a story. And he still says a whole bunch of nothing. Suddenly the Firefly Funhouse is back. He's doing his Muscle Man dance stuff again. That was a throwback from several years ago with John Cena, I think, in the Firefly Funhouse match. And I say that match, the word match very loosely at WrestleMania 36, which is also known as the Pandemic Mania. And then Alexa Bliss has just disappeared once again because that's what she does apparently before WrestleMania season, and I feel bad for her. And then he has just a really subpar match with LA Knight at Rumble, and it's like, all right, Uncle Howdy has a really bad spot, and he just does this meta stuff, but it's too confusing, and he's trying to. I don't even know if he knows where he's going. That's why he's fallen off, because he has no direction. It's 40 directions, and I don't want to have to choose which one it is. That's not my job. As a wrestling fan, sure, if there's some things that I'd like to piece together that are, simple to see but hard. Let me put it this way: if there is something, for example, the Bloodline storyline, part of what makes it so good is very easy to understand, difficult to see the future, but easy to piece any pieces together. And you're like, oh, well, that would make sense, and this would make sense, and that would make sense, but totally easy to understand. Bray Wyatt, not easy to understand, and not seeing the future and understanding what direction he's going. You're shooting yourself in the foot from the get-go. So Bray Wyatt is a mess. The one thing he's got going for him is name brand value, and he's intriguing as hell when you watch him. That's it. Because he has not shown he can have a great match yet. He's had one match since he came back 6 months ago, which is insane. And the match was what, like 5, 6, 7 minutes? It's concerning. And yes, the reports of Vince being back, I mean, do I think he is? Do I think Vince has some creative influence right now? Yes, I do. Do I think it's overwhelming? No, but I do think he has some say in it. I really do believe that. That's just my opinion. Okay, second, a hot topic right now is Vince being in charge again, and I would like to throw in my thoughts. I do think Vince in some way is in charge. When Vince came back in January, it was only for the sale of the company, but he gutted his board and got appointed to the head. Triple H stated in a press conference that he has contacted Vince for creative talk. To what extent, we don't know. But we then get the Lesnar versus Omos match, which Vince made. Then this last Monday, he was sitting in Gorilla. So he went from the sale only to sitting in Gorilla, but he isn't in charge. But wait, there's more. WWE released WrestleMania movie posters on the bottom in small letters. It says directed by Vince McMahon. That was 2 weeks ago. The new ones now have the bottom blurred. So what do you think? How involved is Vince? So I think Vince is involved personally. This is, again, my speculation. I don't think he has full control of everything the way he did before. I think he has some influence. He has some say. And, even if he doesn't technically have any say, maybe, in what's going on, Vince is such a mainstay that his presence almost dictates that he still does, right? Like, it would be like a CEO of a company, resigning, who was there for 50 years and then comes back after a few months. And even though they're not in charge, it still feels like they are. And when they say things that they know that that they can't dictate that it happens, even when they say it, it still carries more weight and feels like they're still telling you what to do. And some people will still do it. I think that's some of what's going on. And here's the thing with Omos and Lesnar, though. That's a very Vince McMahon match, isn't it? I mean, that is Vince McMahon to a T. But I think the issue is that Lesnar didn't want to face Wyatt. That has been the report. And I believe that because Lesnar didn't want to deal with Wyatt's hocus pocus. Because when you deal with Wyatt's hocus pocus, it undermines the actual essence of who and what Brock Lesnar is. And he didn't want to compromise that, which I understand. Lastly, I'm seeing people say that Lashley versus Wyatt will be the worst WrestleMania match of all time. But I want those people to pump their brakes for a minute. WrestleMania 36 had no fans, and we got King Corbin versus Elias. I don't think I need to say anything else. Have a great day. Well, yeah, that's true. And you know what? We got a match with WrestleMania 36 with John Cena and Bray Wyatt, again, that had about 3 wrestling moves in it, and people were talking about that being one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I thought it was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. I mean, it felt like I needed to be on a cocktail of drugs to understand it. Some people loved it. I still despise that match. I really didn't like any of the cinematic crap that they did back then. Most of it. I just didn't. That wasn't my cup of tea. And I'm glad we're out of that. All right. Let's get to the next email here. And it is from Ryan Wilcox. And he says, "Hey, Matt, I'm an old school wrestling fan. I recall first watching WWF, NWA, and AWA back when Hulk Hogan won the belt from the Iron Sheik in 1984. I was 7. I went to multiple house shows back then, and I watched until 2002. I started watching again right after Clash at the Castle this past year, and I love that your podcast has really helped me get right back up to speed." Well, I'm glad we could help. On the Raw review, you wondered whether Seth Rollins is over or if his music is over with the crowd. I have to tell you, when I started watching this past year, I found Seth annoying initially, and the crowd singing his song equally ridiculous. However, in the past 3 months, I've come to fully appreciate and enjoy Seth's character. He seems to me to be the closest we have on the current roster to a Macho Man Savage type. In interview clips, Seth appears to be living his character 24/7, kind of like Macho Man did. I've seen rumors online that Logan Paul is actually training with Seth for their upcoming match. I also saw an interview in which Seth was asked if he unplugs from the business when he has free time, where he explained that he is addicted to wrestling, and that when he is not in the ring, he is watching wrestling. This totally reminds me of stories where Randy Savage would call Hulk Hogan in the middle of the night to discuss ideas for their matches, throw in over-the-top outfits, and again, Macho Man. I feel like Seth is the current ambassador for WWE with the people. Every week, video clips are posted of him interacting and talking with the crowd after live events. On the Corey Graves podcast last week, Seth spoke about how Logan Paul being involved in WWE gives young kids a false impression of what it takes to become a pro wrestler. I feel like his crowd response is because it's clear that Seth loves wrestling and putting on a show for the people. The guy loves what he does, and it shows. The tragedy is that he is nowhere near battling for a title right now. Just want to give my 2 cents. Thanks for the great work you do, Ryan Wilcox. Well, thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we could help you get back into wrestling and up to speed. That is pretty damn cool. Wow. Okay. So you bring up some really good stuff here, Ryan. Really good stuff. So let's go into it here. So you're talking about the difference here between Seth being really over and his music being over, and that was the point I was trying to bring up. Is that I felt like that there's an argument to be made that Seth's music is over, but he's not, and I'm not saying that I believe it. I'm just saying that there's something maybe there. But perhaps his music was just the catalyst to help get him over even further. I mean, he was already a made man. But yeah, I mean, there are some similarities between him and Macho Man. I wasn't watching Macho Man in real time, but obviously I've gone back and seen some of his work. And that your analogy about this reminding you of stories where Randy would call Hulk Hogan in the middle of the night to discuss ideas for their matches, and how Seth is as obsessed with wrestling as, maybe his predecessors were. I think there was absolutely something to that. And you're saying that you've also come to appreciate and enjoy Seth's character over the past 3 months. He seems to be the closest we have on the roster to a Macho Man. Certainly has that charisma. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you'll never have another Macho Man. And he does have that kind of just outlandish, larger than life feel to him. And he's finally settled into a character that it feels like this is really Seth Rollins. And your comment too about him being the current ambassador for WWE with the people, and how he's interacting with the crowd, and he's working with Logan Paul. But your point about Seth speaking about Logan Paul being involved and how it gives young kids a false impression of what it takes, that's exactly right. That's a good point to bring up, because kids who think that you just become, YouTube famous and then can just walk into WWE, this is an exception to the exception of the rule. Logan Paul, I'm hesitant to use the word special, but maybe in a way that is the right word to use, because he is, like him or not, and I don't like him, but that's the point. Sometimes people just hate success, no matter who you are, and they'll turn on you. I'm conscious enough and I think intelligent enough to recognize that's not why I dislike Logan Paul, if he's successful or not. There's a lot of unsuccessful people I don't like, and a lot of successful people I do. So to me, that's a non-factor. But to some people, I don't think they realize that when they're not having success in their own life, they'll find faults with people that are, and then project that frustration with themselves on the person that's actually having success. That's not what's happening with me. I'm nowhere near as successful as, my God, Logan Paul and others. Of course not. So anyway, that aside, I think that's a good point from Seth about, everyone getting kind of a skewed idea of what it takes to become a WWE star. And that's exactly what Logan Paul has done inadvertently. And no fault of Logan Paul. He's in the position that he's in because of his work and because of his natural ability to get people to dislike him, and his athletic ability and his work ethic. I mean, there's no doubt. You can't just stumble into the success that Logan Paul has. You can't fall into it. It doesn't happen by accident. So, but at the same time, you look at a society of kids where there was a survey done. I can't remember the source of the survey, who did it. It was a year or two ago. And I'd have to look it up, where the number one aspiration for kids of Gen Z was to be a YouTube star. I mean, out of all the professions, it was number one to be a YouTube star. So, you add that already existing desire of those who are glued to their phones 9, 10, 12 hours a day, and see the success and money that YouTube stars are bringing in, and then attach that to, I also like wrestling. So wait, if I make a YouTube channel that's successful, I can just walk into WWE? Right? No, right. So that's exactly a good point by Seth, a good point by you as well, Ryan. Thank you so much for bringing that in to us, and I'm glad that you were able to come on the show. First time, I believe. So enjoy the podcast, and hopefully we hear from you again. All right, let's get to Leon. And he says, hey, Matt and the listeners, I have read that Chad Gable is going to finally get a singles run. About time. Sadly, however, Otis has been made the sacrificial lamb and will be the ironic big guy in the Maximum Male Models. But hey, Chad will get a decent run here, I hope. I hope so too. Chad Gable is deserving of some kind of run. And Chad Gable got a victory this past week on Raw for the first time in, my God, 6 months. So, yeah, Otis is back to the Vince McMahon comedic character, which also provides evidence that Vince is somehow involved in creative. There's just too many things that point to Vince having some influence on creative. The sense of humor is the first thing I noticed, that because those that have been watching the product as long or longer than I have know what Vince McMahon finds funny that most of us don't, because as I've said forever, Vince McMahon's sense of humor froze at the age of 14. While his body aged, his sense of humor somehow just was frozen in time at 14 years old. So you know that bathroom humor makes Vince McMahon laugh, and roly-poly bellies and all that stuff. Like, you know, and so anyway, moving on. Let's see. Watching Cena's brilliant promo this week on Raw got me thinking about the problem between the current era and past eras. Well, there you go. I was going to ask what the problem is. It's in the next paragraph. The next problem is the lack of character development. As Cena said, look at The Rock, at the characters like The Rock, Stone Cold, Taker. The only strong character like these days is Roman. Let's run through a few current characters. Bobby, zero character depth. Seth, no one really knows what he is. KO, prize fighter who rarely fights for prizes. I could go on, but you get my drift. Oh, and I should mention that perfectly highlights how poor they have become at character development is Dexter Lumis. He starts out as a creepy serial killer and ends up with the cartoonish Johnny Gargano, losing all of his creepy and sinister vibe. I'd love to hear your views on this. Take care, Leon. First of all, that's hilarious. Like, Kevin Owens, to be fair, has he self-proclaimed him in a while himself as the prize fighter? I know that I think Corey Graves or Kevin Patrick or one of them have said it lately that he's the prize fighter, but KO, to be fair, hasn't brought it up in his promos to remind us he's a prize fighter. So I think if the announcers didn't bring it up, it would be something that has kind of faded away. But somebody recently did mention that about KO. But that's exactly right. Like, if KO is a prize fighter, then what's he fighting the bloodline for? What prize does he stand to win? So that's hilarious. KO, though, you know, when you come out or when you look down at him from a high level, KO does have a decent character amount of character depth, though, I have to say. Kevin Owens does have character depth. You know, you've seen his bad side. He's naturally funny, organically funny. He's got that comedic timing that very few wrestlers have, and he's really good in the ring. They wouldn't put him in a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin last year at WrestleMania if they didn't feel he had character depth. So, but Seth Rollins, no one really knows who and what he is. I would have said that, you know, like a year ago, or when he was doing the Messiah character and then had a kind of an in-between character and didn't know what he was, felt lost. Yeah, he has at times through his career had an identity crisis. Right now, Seth Rollins is the outlandishly dressed, cackling, visionary, revolutionary, whatever the hell that means, by the way. I mean, it's just like two words that sound like they're important and they mean something, but I'd love to have a frank conversation and say, what do you mean by visionary? What does that mean? What about a revolutionary? Or did you just come up with these words because they sound cool together? You know, so to be fair, to your point, yeah. I mean, no character is perfectly fleshed out. Seth Rollins is starting to really find who and what this visionary revolutionary is. He's in a better position than he was. Bobby Lashley, though, I couldn't agree more. Bobby Lashley, if it wasn't for his physique, he would have been a footnote in the world of professional wrestling, because his mic presence is bad. He has very rarely even decent promos. He stumbles on words, and I'm not crapping on him. It's just true. Bobby Lashley is not good on the microphone. He's not convincing on the microphone. I don't feel anything. He's just like an empty vessel when he talks, and I don't know how to describe it. He doesn't have charisma. Maybe that's what it is. He doesn't have that like character you can go, oh man, and you get chills for. He doesn't have that. He's not relatable. And I don't think he believes in what he's saying. I don't know. I totally am with you on Bobby Lashley. But at this point, you know who and what he is. He's 20 years in. You're not going to get any kind of massive improvement with Bobby, other than he's going to continue to look like an absolute tank. You know, the dude is a legit badass. So thanks, Leon. Let's get to a couple more emails here, and then we'll get to the voicemails. This is from Jaden. And Jaden says, I was in attendance at Raw in Boston, and I wanted to share something crazy that happened in the crowd. A few sections over there was a fight in the crowd, and someone got put in a submission of some sort and ended up getting put to sleep. The crowd on my side of the arena started chanting, "You tapped out." The guy got carried out by 4 security guards. This all happened during the Sammy match. The "you tapped out" chants got pretty loud. Did it make it on TV? I'll link out the Twitter video for you guys to see the guy getting carried out. Wow. Okay, so I'm watching this right now. I know you guys can't see it, but okay. I did not see this. I'm liking it now. I did not hear the "you tapped out" chants. And maybe because I wasn't listening for them, or maybe I heard chanting and I didn't just try to listen for what it was. Did anyone else hear it? I don't know. I mean, so if you want to see the video, I'm going to retweet it here. I'm retweeting this video. Anyone know why a fight broke out? So check out my Twitter feed, wrestling_audio, if you want to see the guy being carried out and the fans chanting and looking. I did not. So that is interesting. Thank you for that that in-person perspective. See, the stuff you don't hear and see when you're watching at home. And when I go to Raw at the end of May here in Albany, I may have to interview myself as a live correspondent. That'll be extremely narcissistic. I promise I won't do that. All right. Thank you so much for that in person. I really do appreciate it. Let's get to, I think this is our final email, but let's do it. Hi, Matt. You can call me Joseph. I actually really am excited for Brock versus Omos and Bray Lashley. I think both matches are going to steal the show, but I agree the storytelling's not good at all. But I'm very excited to see Cody versus Roman. I know everyone wants Cody to beat Roman, but I would hate Cody, or I would hate that Cody should not be the one to beat Roman. I feel Cody does not deserve it. That's all. Have a good day. Well, thank you, Joseph, for that in perspective. And I'm glad you're excited about Brock and Omos, and you're excited about Bray and Lashley. Do I think that either are going to steal the show? No, I don't. There's no reason to believe they will, because Bray Wyatt has not shown since he returned that he can put on a good match. And Omos and Lashley is impossible to be match of the night given the just physics of the match. Like, Omos is a massive human being. If you're looking for what we define as wrestling fans as a 5-star match or match of the night, it's just not possible. It's just not. I mean, again, the way we define it today in 2023, they're not going to have that kind of match. So, but thank you. I'm glad you are disagreeing. I'm glad that you really are excited about it. Because we need differing opinions on this show. All right, that does it for the emails. Let's jump into those voicemails, guys. Let's do it.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. Recorded to you live on a Wednesday morning. And it is time for your favorite show to come on every single week on the Mailbag. And I'm talking about the Fear Mahan Report. Now, the Veer Mahaan report took place last night on NXT, and of course, last night was NXT Roadblock. We did get the trios match of my guy Veer Mahaan, Sangha, and the modern-day Maharaja Jinder Mahal, the Indus going up against the Creed brothers of Julius and Brutus Creed and Braun Breaker. I can't stand Braun Breaker. But now, let's get to the match. Now, of course, the outcome was that the Creed brothers and, of course, none other than Braun Breaker did get the win, but there were some hope spots in the match for my guy Veer Mahaan and the Indus Sher together as a group. They did start off the match hot. And of course, we did get some strikes. We did get some isolations. We did get some power moves from my guy Veer Mahaan when he hit the $1 million lariat. The $1 million lariat to Julius Creed. And of course, Sangha with the chokeslam also to Julius Creed. And then the momentum shifted later on into the match. Of course, there was a couple of spears by Braun Breaker, and then all of a sudden, my guy Veer Mahaan, oh my goodness, I think this was probably the first time that I've seen it, that my guy Veer Mahaan got pinned. Oh my goodness, what looked like a doomsday tag team move with Julius going on, with Veer Mahaan going on Julius's shoulder, and of course, Brutus Creed going off the top of the rope and hitting that, I think they call it the Brutus Ball, or whatever they call it now, the Brutus Ball. But anyway, 1, 2, and 3, that ends the match. And of course, the Creed brothers and Braun Breaker win. But I'm looking at the future for my guy Veer Mahaan. I'm looking at the future of the Indus Sher, and I'm still excited because there's a lot more to come. Now, this may be a low point right now, but they're going to come back up eventually. They're going to come back again because I know that the future is still bright for this faction, still bright for the Indus Sher of my guy Veer Mahaan, Sangha, and the modern-day Maharaja Jinder Mahal. Now, with that being said, folks, I hope you all have a blessed week. Stay used to my friends. Be kind to one another, and peace.
I love your positive outlook, DJ. You got to be positive about this because, I mean, in there with the NXT champion, even if you lose, it wasn't a squash. That would have been more discouraging. And they did get offense, right? So, as you described. So if you're a fan of the Indus Sher, Veer Mahaan, Sangha, and or the modern day Maharaja, then there is something to look forward to here. I mean, you don't just get put into the main event by accident, working with the NXT champion. So, again, I'm still looking towards a main roster debut as a tag team or a faction in 2023. Maybe as soon as, right after WrestleMania, but more likely as the spring and summer roll on, that they'll be introduced into the main roster. That's what I think. Based on the information you're telling me, and you follow it much closer than I do, DJ. Certainly. And we appreciate it. Everybody appreciates your report. Very entertaining every week and keeping us abreast about, again, the topic that probably most of us don't have at the forefront of our minds is we're all talking about Cody. We're all talking about Brock. We're all talking about Omos. We're all talking about Bobby. We're all talking about Bray. You bring something to us that's, something that we don't think about weekly until you bring it to us, until you tell us about it. And then we go, what about this up and coming team? It is sometimes cool to follow even before NXT when they're just in developmental, the names of the people that WWE is signing and to see who they are and to see the progress before they even get up to the NXT level. And then eventually, of course, make it to the main roster of Raw or SmackDown. So it is fun for those that are interested to look at the brand new talent and, of course, NXT itself. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a show in and of itself that you could start looking at, like just the developmental part of WWE and who's doing what and what the latest news is or how WWE feels about this person, that person, this man, this woman. I don't know. I'm just spitballing and wasting time. So sorry, guys. I'm going on a tangent. Thank you, DJ, for your weekly report. Let's get to the next voicemail.
Alex, the French guy here, your current European champion. I have a lot of rants and spoilers today. Also, I wanted to know if in this podcast, is there a French guy here? Another French guy? Because I hear a lot of you guys, but some of you European, but not French. Maybe I know there's a Swiss in it, but let me know if you're French, and maybe we can attend some show together when they're coming to France or in Switzerland. So, So, yeah, Alex, the French guy on the Discord chat. With that out of the way, 2 weeks ago, I was talking about Cody Rhodes, and I was saying that I was going to be a I'm very disappointed about the SmackDown show today. I didn't watch Raw. I am doing this on Saturday before AEW main pay-per-view. So yeah, a lot of spoilers today and a lot of disappointments. I saw the Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns promo on SmackDown. I am the biggest fan of Cody Rhodes on this show, I believe, but this promo was literally trash from Cody Rhodes. Thank God Roman Reigns carried away. All the pacing of the voice, everything was perfect from Roman Reigns. But from Cody Rhodes, it was unorganic the way he spoke. But I have the feel my hype is at an all-time low about WrestleMania. And yeah, I hope they come up with something else. Because the shake of hands, all right, all respect, may the best win. There is nothing organic in this promo as much as I like Cody Rhodes. This is not good planning from WWE, and I'm not hyped from WrestleMania. Roman Reigns is going to keep the titles. That's a spoiler, guys. Cody Rhodes is not going to win. That is for 100% sure. Secondly, AEW pay-per-view, MJF versus Bryan Danielson. MJ is going to retain. So, yeah, guys, very disappointed about the show, I hope they are having some surprise. Nothing interesting from the other promos. I really hope they come up with something good and bigger. That's all for me for this week. Alex, the French guy, signing off, guys. Peace.
All right, Alex. So, I don't think there's another French guy on here. There is someone from Switzerland, and that's Bebin from Switzerland. And I don't know if he called in this week. I'll have to check the rest of the voicemails here. But I don't know if we have anybody else that's from France. I know we have French Canadians. I'm actually a quarter French, so do I count? Probably not, right? But no, we do have other people from the Montreal, a few people actually that call in weekly. We have a co-host that's from Montreal, speaks fluent French, but I don't think there's anybody that I know of that calls in that's from France. I could be wrong, and I have a terrible memory, but yeah, anyway, reach out to, if you're interested, like Alex said, in the Discord chat on Patreon, patreon.com/WWE podcast, if you want to get in touch with Alex. But your critique about the promo between Cody and Roman, while most people loved it, and I did like it as well, I understand the kind of the perspective that it felt a little contrived from Cody, a little forced. I'm with you. The yelling was unnecessary towards the end. He said, I have to do this. I have to do it. It's a necessity, right? And then, yes, I'm making a list because it's exactly how he sounded. I'm making fun of him. It's distracting. I know no one else wants to say it, but I'll say it. His lisp is distracting, and it's not that it makes me hate him or dislike him, but it's distracting in a promo. It just is. I'm not, again, some of you out there, stop talking about it. It makes you uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just saying it like it is. Okay, I have things that people don't like, and if I'm a public figure and people want to critique me, well, then you put yourself in that position to be open to that, right? So, I know no one else will ever say that, and no one else even wants to touch it because they'll be shamed, or we want to point out somebody's disability. I mean, isn't it something? I mean, and this is a serious question, okay? This is a serious question. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm asking, if you have a lisp, right? And I had one as a kid. As a child, you learn how to correct it. No? Unless it's some kind of actual nerve damage in his tongue, which I don't think it is. As a child, can't you work through that? Or especially as an adult, would you want that to be, if it's fixable, if it's something he can actually correct, why would he not want to correct it? To just pay homage to his dad, who had one too, but his dad's lisp was almost endearing. Cody Rhodes is distracting. And it takes away from his promos. Like half the time I'm like, oh, here comes an S word, here comes an S word. I mean, some of you out there are like, yeah, that's true. I'm never going to say it, but it's true. So I'll say it. Again, great content in his promo. I think Cody Rhodes is a very good promo, and he has a presence about him. I'm not going to deny it. So moving on from the lisp thing that everyone feels uncomfortable about, I do respect Cody. And this week with Roman did carry his end, although I'm actually kind of in the reverse, where I agree that Cody Rhodes screaming was a little bit forced and no need to do it. But Roman Reigns going a little bit meta at the beginning, saying, "Oh, did you practice that all week?" It's like, instead of pointing out like it sounded rehearsed, can you not battle the content of his promo? Like, that to me was the easy way out to go head to head with Cody on the microphone. Like, instead of going at the content of what he said, he had to just go at the way he delivered it, which I thought was a cop out. And everyone just then reverts immediately to Dusty. Like, everyone is instructed right now to just say, "Oh, it's about Dusty." Oh, everyone, no matter what you do, just go, circle back to Dusty. It's all about, "Oh, I'm the son that your dad never had." Blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to see what the promos are like when Dusty's not a part of them. Like, Dusty's not wrestling. Dusty's dead, okay? Cody's wrestling. I know the story is it's about his dad, but can that just be like something that was mentioned kind of in passing? Why does it have to be one of the main focal points? And it's everyone mentioning it all the time. Every time. From Paul Heyman, now Roman Reigns on that train. Cody constantly is, talking about it. It's just, I don't know. Even if I loved him as a babyface, I'd say, hey, can you just stand in your own 2 feet? Again, great. I think he's a really good talent. I would never fire him. He is one of your one of your main foundational pieces. I would agree that he's a good babyface if you like that kind of babyface. So for those that think I'm going to go on a 20-minute bashing of Cody, I'm not. He's a really good in-ring wrestler, no doubt. He's got a presence. He's really good content-wise on the mic. So Cody could be, and I think he is, a future WWE and or World and or Universal Champion, however, or Undisputed, whatever the hell it's going to be in the future. I agree. I don't think it's at WrestleMania, and I hope it's not. Really do. All right. Thank you so much, Alex. And let's get to our next one.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore. So I wanted to talk about, I think that's WrestleMania in general, the hype for it. I got done listening to your current week at WWE thing, like I do every week. And you and Michael always talk about the or your, I don't know what his name is. Talk about the situation Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I kind of, at this point, I agree. I said this before last week. I'm not all that interested in this match at all. The hype for it hasn't been all that great. I've been down on it, like I said last week. But beyond that, I think WrestleMania in general, as a whole, I'm not all that excited for it for the most part. There's a few matches I'm into, like the women's tag team title match at WrestleMania. I look forward to that. Logan and Rollins should be fun. Even the potential men's tag team title match should be fun as well. But in terms of the hype for it, I just don't care. At this point, I'm ready to see what's going to happen after WrestleMania at this point. So what do you think is going to, in terms of the hype and what can really expect for the show, will it be, I'm sure it'll be a fun show, but how can he make it better after WrestleMania? It's a weird question, but the hype for it isn't all that interesting, and what can he do to make it better? Is it just going to be how it is and just have to deal with it and wait until WrestleMania is over with and all that stuff? But that's it. Really weird question there, but that's it. Thanks for a call. Bye.
Hey, Kyle. Hope you're doing well. So it's hilarious to hear people already talking about past WrestleMania. I mean, we're already down on a show we haven't seen. And I'm not disparaging you, Kyle. I'm trying to not agree with you because I'm in the same boat as you. I don't want to be this down on WrestleMania. I want to be excited. And there are some things that intrigue me. I mean, that up and down the card isn't a complete disaster. But when you think about what could have happened with Brock and Stone Cold, which is what the proposed match was with Stone Cold getting that offer, it was to face Brock Lesnar. And maybe they're preparing that for WrestleMania 40, perhaps, in Philadelphia. Maybe. But when you go from that to Omos, it's a downer. When you hear about The Rock, oh, it's finally coming back. The Rock's coming back. He's going to face Roman, and it's not, and it's Cody. You've just had disappointment after disappointment over the last several months of big matches being rumored, and then it's nope. And then Sammy main event. Oh, is it going to be the main event? No, it's just going to be the tag match that we all expected for 4 months. Like, that's been the thing, is it's just kind of they're going along, and to some degree I respect their plan of just sticking to what they said they were going to do instead of just going with wherever the wind's blowing them to meaning with what the fans are reacting to in the moment. They're not just instantly making knee-jerk reactions. But when you look at Cody Rhodes, I've said so much about him already, but when you look at him and you're talking about how you're just not into the story, well, that's because they had to start from scratch. They had to start from ground zero. There is no history with them, to my knowledge, at all. So when you go from a super in-depth, long-term, great story that's been told for 8 months with Sammy to, Cody won the Rumble at number 30, and now we're all supposed to get super invested in him and Roman, it's like, well, why? I mean, because it's a new matchup, okay, and they're trying to get super personal with Cody. Okay, that happens in every single program ever. Like, that's the problem. They've had no foundation to build off of like they did with Sammy. So that's why you're probably feeling a little bit kind of disconnected from the story. And as far as the rest of the card goes, I'm with you. Now, here's the thing with after WrestleMania. I've already mentioned about Jey Uso probably facing Roman Reigns for the title, probably facing him either at Backlash or the Saudi event that's proposed for the end of May. And that's what I think they're going to do. Now, again, you could have Sammy compete for the championship one-on-one. You could go back to that one or two more times. So I think either Sammy or Jay, or a combination of them over the coming months after WrestleMania, will face Roman. Roman will get to that all-important 1,000 days. And then, as I said, after that, all bets are off. Then they can finally, I think that's their finish line. Not that after 1,000 days, he's dropping it immediately. But after that, they can kind of take a breath and go, all right, we made it. We have, for whatever documentary they want to make or whatever, docuseries they're probably doing or whatever they want to do, promotional wise, marketing for Roman's 1,000-day reign. Then I think we can go, all right, now it's all bets are off. Let's see who, anyone that comes along could potentially be the one to beat Roman after that. But that's probably where they're going after that, Kyle. It's probably just back to Jay and Sammy. Again, a returning Randy Orton has a claim to be made, a claim to stake against Roman. That could possibly happen. A babyface Roman turn is possible, although not likely, given I don't think they have gotten all the use out of a heel Roman Reigns yet. So that's what I think. All right. Thanks, Kyle. Let's get to our next one.
Hey, Matt. It's Robert from the WWE Ringside Podcast. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. So at WrestleMania, we all pretty much assume that's going to be KO and Sammy versus the Usos for the tag titles, and that Sammy and KO are probably going to win the titles. But what if they don't? What if the Usos do beat KO and Sammy with the help from Solo? No one's really talking about if the Usos retain at WrestleMania and Roman retains, and the Bloodline walks in and out of WrestleMania holding the titles. I think the heat would just build so much more on them, especially the Usos. So what are your thoughts on that? Because no one's really talking about it and the possibilities of that. I don't think it's really high. I think the Usos are probably going to lose the titles, but what if they don't? That's kind of the first question. And the second point or question I have is, we didn't get The Rock Roman this year, and then The Rock did say WrestleMania 40, like he does every year, kind of postpones it a year. But so we're back on the talk again. And I think a way we can get to Rock Roman at WrestleMania 40 would be if at some point the Usos, when they do lose their titles, Roman is upset with them. And then we get The Rock telling Roman that we don't treat family that way. And they eventually face off at WrestleMania. but it won't be for the title. Roman will end up dropping the title at like SummerSlam or something to that effect. But it will be a Rock vs. Roman at WrestleMania 40 where the loser is banished from the bloodline. There's no title on the line, and that would add a lot more intrigue in the match where you really don't really know who's going to win. And with Roman treating his family the way he is, I could see him then wanting to banish him from the family. So what are your thoughts on that? Have a good one. Bye.
Hey, Robert, hope you're doing well. Hope the podcast is doing well. That's a great point to bring up. We have all just decided that it's a foregone conclusion that the Usos are dropping the tag titles to Kevin and Sami. Now, let's be honest. That's a likely scenario. And the match isn't even official. Hell, Kevin and Sami aren't even a team yet. I mean, we don't even have the match, but I mean, if that's not the match, I have no idea what is. But assuming that's the match, that's the most likely scenario. I would say it's like a 75 to 80% chance that Kevin and Sami win. Because there's so much you could do with that. You could have Roman get mad, and then that's when Jay starts to break off, and you have Roman have a new opponent in Jey Uso. Start like you said, he's going to treat them like garbage and say you've disgraced the family. What is this? What have you done to me? How does it make me look? Somehow Roman will make it about him because that's what his character is, and it'll be brilliant and fun to see how much abuse the Usos can take before they finally turn on Roman, and then the bloodline starts to disintegrate. The thing with WWE, they know they have one of the hottest storylines they've ever had, and they're milking it. They're not going to just disintegrate a cash cow where they're selling so much merchandise. The ratings are through the roof. So that's why they're going to milk this complete disintegration of the bloodline over time. And I would too, because it's making them a lot of money right now. So it's not just, what's best for creative? It's money, 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 money. And right now they're making a ton of money off of this from ratings, from sponsors, from t-shirt sales, merchandise, you name it. So you have to think about that too, which a lot of times fans don't. They just go, I just want to see the best thing. It's like, well, if you're WWE, what makes the most sense from dollars and cents and ratings and numbers? Anyway, I digress. So let's go with your scenario. Unlikely as it is, it's still possible that Kevin and Sami don't win. Okay. Then I would imagine that they give it another kick at the can at Backlash. And maybe that's where they drop the belts at Backlash. Let me Google this because I need to know when Backlash is. So I'm going to type it in now. WrestleMania, because they call it WrestleMania Backlash, right? WrestleMania Backlash is, I don't know. Oh, May 6th in Puerto Rico. Wow. I think it's just called Backlash now. Yeah, it's in Puerto Rico. So Bad Bunny's going to host Backlash, which, side note, for those that are interested in 2K23, which is coming out next week, I can't wait, although I'll be in Clearwater Beach with a couple of friends and not knowing what day or time it is. But that said, the hilarious part of WWE promoting you getting the deluxe version of the game is that you'll get Bad Bunny as a downloadable character. It's like, who came up with that marketing strategy? How many people have bought the game early and at a higher price so they could get Bad Bunny? That's a motivation for exactly 0 people. I'm sorry. They couldn't come up with anybody else like Kurt Angle. I mean, like there's a zillion people that could have decided to put that spot in and made them that hook to have people buy the deluxe version, which is more money, than Bad Bunny. I meant to comment on that. Like, sorry, I'm going way off the rails. I apologize, but let's get back to it. So Backlash is May 6th. I believe the Saudi event is May 27th. The proposed Saudi event. I don't think it's confirmed yet. And that means, the Usos could lose it there to Kevin and Sami if there's a rematch. That's a possibility. The other possibility is they just continue the reign and the bloodline looks as solid as ever. Now, if that's the case, I could see where The Rock interjects himself, right? At WrestleMania, say the bloodline, all of them retain their championships. Everyone is falling at their feet at WrestleMania. As WrestleMania is going off the air, and as Roman's holding up his belt, and the Usos are holding up their belts that they retained, and there's bodies laying everywhere, that's a perfect way to set the table for The Rock. And I keep saying this because there really has been so many instances of perfection that The Rock could have come back at. And what that does is you have The Rock come back face to face with Roman. Maybe he hits a rock bottom on him. Maybe he just stares him down. And he says, all he says is, you, me, 1 year. You've got 1 year, right? Like, there's many ways to do it. Or he could just not say anything and do a stare off and, imply that, kind of do the John Cena WrestleMania 27 or WrestleMania 28 deal where he challenges Roman a year out and says, Roman, whether you have that belt or you don't, you and I are going to find out who the true head of the table is at WrestleMania 40. And WrestleMania 40, what a great way to sell WrestleMania 40 right off the bat. Gives Rock enough time to get into shape. That excuse goes out the window. Gives him enough time to clear his schedule. That excuse goes out the window. Barring any kind of ridiculous injury, hey, then there's no excuse for anyone. And that's how you do it. And you could keep Roman, I think, hot enough for a year because it's a tried and true formula they found with Roman. And I agree, I wouldn't do it for the belt either, and I would do it for loser leaves the family. But I don't know if they leave the bloodline because The Rock would never be a part of the bloodline, but they'd be banished from the family, whatever that means. I'm cool with that. I don't think they'd market it that way. They'd just market it as who's the true head of the table or who's the true alpha male of the family kind of thing. But I would agree. I never want the belt involved with this because it completely tips the scale in the favor of Roman Reigns retaining the championship if The Rock is going to challenge for a belt. The Rock can't even come in for a night to commit for a night to come in for a match, although the preparation to get there is, of course, many months of work. I'm talking about the one night, much less he's going to go on a title run. Come on. So I don't want the title involved. So, all right, you got me all riled up. But those are my thoughts. All right, a couple more voicemails, and that'll do it for tonight, so let's get to it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the gardener, Michael Gross, from the windy city of Louisville. If you don't know what happened here on Friday, I'm sure you could take a look at the Weather Channel and figure it out, but it was kind of crazy. Anyway, I'm safe. I have power, so I'm really lucky. A lot of people don't. All right, getting past that, if WrestleMania isn't an indicator that Vince is back, maybe the fact that Matt is slowly turning into me with his opinions would tell you Vince is back, okay? We've got Omos versus Brock Lesnar in a match that nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to see. We have Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley that has no build-up whatsoever. We have a world title match where people are slowly starting to turn on Cody because of the animosity towards him with Sami Zayn's situation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that I'm really not looking forward to this WrestleMania. If this doesn't tell you that the old man is back in control, I don't know what does. And I just want to throw a couple shout-outs to my boy Memphis Mark. I love you, man. You've known you 20 years. DJ Kuzmo for all the help he's doing with me right now. And to my new friend and the guy I'm working with the most these days, that's Mr. Rocky T down in Houston. The bromance is alive, brother. All right, guys, you have a wonderful evening, and it's great to talk to all the seedlings. I've got a lot of things going on. Matt, I'll be talking to you soon. Bye.
All right, Mr. Gardner, glad you're safe down there. Yeah, the weather has been nuts, and winter up here in the north anyway, northeast specifically in the upstate New York. I can only speak for upstate New York, but I watch, occasionally what goes on in the rest of the country. It has been an absence of winter. I mean, we've got a couple of snowstorms up here, like 5-6 inches, and it's like, obviously, if you're listening anywhere that's a warm climate, you're like, oh my God, that would shut down everything for a week. Up here, it's just kind of like, it takes 1 to 2 feet to get people's attention up here, and we haven't had any of that. So, we don't have any tornadoes or anything like that this time of year anyway. So, glad you're safe. But yeah, I don't know what you've done to me there, Mr. Gardner. I don't know what's going on. Maybe you put a bit of a poison seed into my brain that's been slowly budding over time, over these months and years, that I finally am succumbing to your poison. I don't know what it is. I really am making a concerted effort to try not to be super over negative about the card, because when you look at the card, it's very uninspiring generally. Not all the matches. There are some matches that I'm interested in seeing, but generally it's uninspiring. It is. John Cena, Austin Theory should be fun. That match I'm looking forward to, but it seemingly is a foregone conclusion. John Cena is not going to win, but maybe that's what they're trying to make you think. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it's a bit uninspiring. And you look at this and you go, oh, that has Vince McMahon's fingerprints on it. That's a match Vince would make. That's a match Vince. Who knows? We don't know what the hell's going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I blame you for my sourness towards the product as of late. But yeah, shout out to Memphis Mark as always. Shout out to DJ. Shout out to all of the regulars. You guys are awesome. So, all right. Thank you, buddy, and let's get to our final voicemail.
Hey, Matt, this is Randy from LA. Question. I've been thinking about this. I've been kind of looking ahead. And let's say Cody wins the championship at WrestleMania. Does he have enough star power and presence to carry the main event scene for the rest of the year, especially if they don't split the titles, if he's the undisputed WWE Universal, WWE Heavyweight combined champion of the world? I mean, does he have enough power, star power, and presence to carry the main event scene, especially if Roman's out there, especially if Sammy's out there and they're still around and they move into other feuds and those two are not working with Cody. Does Cody have enough star power to carry the main event scene? Let's say Cody wins and main event SummerSlam with the Seth or an Austin Theory, but Roman and Jay start a feud. Who cares about what the tribal chief says? That resurfaces and it makes his way back to that, and the bloodline starts to crumble. But Cody's supposed to be the main event. He's supposed to go on last. But you got Roman and Jay, you got Sammy, maybe still pretty up there with the crowd, getting the pop. And can Cody main event the scene? And I was thinking about this. If Triple A puts the belt on Cody, is Reigns and Sammy and Gunther and Seth and all these other guys, are they going to overshadow the main event scene every time there's some pay-per-view? Just want to get your thoughts on that. Thank you, man. Have a good week.
Hey, Randy, hope you are doing well, and some good questions. And is Cody ready? Does he have enough star power? Does he have the presence to carry the main event scene? The answer is, if you compare it to Roman Reigns, the answer is no. No. Roman Reigns is on a all-time great streak. He's held the belt longer than The Rock, longer than Stone Cold, longer than any of our favorites over the last 30 years. Roman Reigns is on a very, very short elite list right now. And can Cody compare to that? Absolutely not. But does WWE have the faith in him to be able to have the fans go and react and say, wow, all of that was worth it. You're our guy. You are now the face of the company. I say that is not going to happen. I really do. They would be taking a big gamble to put that on Cody Rhodes. Not that he emotionally or mentally couldn't handle it, but the thing is, he's never been in this position either. While he feels like he belongs, and that's a credit to him and his confidence and his growing and being polished as a wrestler, as a performer, but until you actually execute it, do you want an unknown? Do you want to throw and roll the dice with Cody Rhodes as your end game? Was Cody Rhodes the end game of 1,000 days? I'm sorry, it doesn't add up. Now, Cody can be made a even bigger star in a loss here by putting on an awesome match, and I think him and Roman will potentially, and dare I say, likely, steal the show. They are going to put on an awesome match, probably a 20-minute match where it's just drama, roller coaster, interference. Maybe Sammy tries to interfere. Maybe The Rock comes in. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's possible. Maybe there's brass knucks or maybe, an unknown member of the bloodline. Who knows? Randy Orton. We don't know who's coming out here, right? To interfere. And so there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And the match has the potential and is likely to steal the show as the main event of WrestleMania. And it'll be the night 2 main event, which is the true main event of WrestleMania, by the way. So, do I think he has the star power? No, Do I think he has the presence? I mean, he feels like he belongs. If it wasn't Roman Reigns on this epic streak, I would say, give him a shot, see where it goes. But this is a massive thing to end. This is not just one of your, let's put the belt on him and see what happens. That's not what I want to hear, right? If I'm the one who's going to make that call and people are telling me, give the boy a shot, let's see what he's got. That's not the time to do it when somebody's on a 1,000-day run. It would be foolhardy for them to do this, and it would be a massive gamble that's not worth gambling. When you've got a great thing going, and then you risk also, okay, the crowd may pop big, but then they start to lose interest over time and go, oh, that should have been Sammy. Oh, what are they thinking? This should have been whoever, right? Sammy, obviously number one candidate, but Gunther is out there. Him and Gunther eventually should have a match. But there's positives too to this. I mean, if you're looking at the flip side is, great, now we have a champion that's actually going to be on Raw. Maybe the belts are split. Who knows? I mean, but there are some massive benefits to Cody winning, or really anyone. It doesn't have to be Cody. It's just anyone getting the belt off Roman. There are some benefits. But yeah, I mean, this is a discussion you can go on forever with. So thank you, Randy. I appreciate your voicemail. All right. Well, as we were chatting here, I did say that was the last of the voicemails and the emails. It was the last of the emails, but as I was chatting, we did get 2 more emails coming in here, and I'll answer them because I'm a nice guy. It's Rocky T, and he says, hey, y'all, sorry I didn't send in my email last week. I was gearing up to work the rodeo here in Houston, Texas at my T-Mobile truck. Yes, I'm a mobile expert. Oh, cool. If you have any sort of questions or want to make the switch to T-Mobile, I can help, especially with business accounts. Any and everyone can contact me at Rockies Club 007 on Twitter. That's Rockies Club 007 on Twitter. Hey, there you go for a plug. Also, this is my dedicated account for all things wrestling, and you can even see the advertisements for the WWE podcast on my account, where you will see the instructions on how to get an ad-free listening on me. So for all the listeners who haven't joined Patreon, this is the time to do it. Dang. All right, so you're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, buddy. Yeah, anyone who has or wants to switch to T-Mobile, Rocky T's your man. Contact him at Rockies Club 007 on Twitter. And if you want to go ad-free for free on Rocky, you can do that at that same place. I appreciate that, Rocky. So, after hearing the current state with you and Anthony talking to the point about Bray and Bobby, I know it's a cold match, and they're starting from scratch, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I may have the reason why it does. First, I don't think it will be a squash match like we saw with LA Knight. Bobby has more in his arsenal, and I think it will be more of a competitive match. Second, I'm assuming Bray wins. It's a nice little launch pad for Bray to have a victory over a vet and former WWE champion like Bobby. And third, most importantly, if the loss to Bray has some sort of a Fiend effect where the superstar who loses reverts back to an older version of their character, then this could make Bobby revert back to the heel Lashley, the Hurt Business Bobby, that I personally loved a lot with all the small Easter egg hints of the Hurt Business. This is how we get the Hurt Business back. Well, I wouldn't mind the Hurt Business coming back, number one. I don't care how it happens. And I don't know, it just stopped dead, probably because they realized, oh, wait, we got to have somebody talk for Omos because he can't talk himself, and Brock doesn't want to face Bray, so if Omos is going to face him, we got to have somebody talking with him, so we'll put the Hurt Business reunion on hold. I think that's probably what happened. But, it is a cold start. A lot of these matches are just completely from scratch. 3 of them, 3 big matches are from total scratch, which is not a good place to be when you're trying to get people invested in Mania. But so do I think that we have a situation where Bobby is going to lose? Yes, I do. And that's probably why Brock didn't want to face Bray. He didn't want to lose to the Hocus Pocus Master. He didn't want to play those games. It would go against his character. And Lashley's in a position that he could lose. And I don't think Lesnar wanted to do the job. And I don't blame him. But, yeah, I mean, I think the match will be better than LA Knight. But this is going to be a big litmus test for Bray. If he has another stinker, there's now reason for concern. I'm not expecting a 5-star classic, just something that you go, oh, okay, cool. Bray still got it. This match is better than I thought. That's what I want to come away with, right? And I think there's a strong chance of that. So thank you, Rocky T. Let's get to our final email and final message from our listeners. And this is from, oh boy, Teagues? I think I said that right. Hey, Matt and everyone. I've been listening to the podcast for almost a year now. I love the community that you and the team have been building. Just a quick shout out to Michael Ritter and John C. on the SmackDown podcast. I always look forward to that show dropping. Not going to write too much here, but just wanted to ask if you noticed in the background during the Boogs and Elias segment backstage that Cody was talking to KO. Do you think they're going to try to make Cody the one that reunites Sammy and KO? I could see them being a small group up to WrestleMania with a common goal, and I'm not sure where it would lead to post-WrestleMania. That's all I've got. Appreciate the hard work everyone does behind the scenes. Take care. Well, thank you so much, buddy, and I'm glad you enjoy the SmackDown review. They are a really good team. I'd really encourage everyone to check out Michael Ritter's other podcast he does, Football Function. Great show. But, yeah, look, Cody Rhodes this past week on Raw saved Sammy from a beatdown. So it's plausible to believe that they could be a bit of a temporary faction to take down the bloodline, and he could be the straw that stirs the drink, or rather, maybe a better analogy is he's the bridge between Cody is the bridge between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Yeah, I mean, why not? The WWE is pulling out all the stops to make sure Cody Rhodes gets cheered, and that he puts put in a position that is desirable and associating happiness and good feelings with Cody. They're doing that, and they're doing it nicely. I mean, I got to say, those of us that know what the psychology behind it and try to see what they're doing to us are aware of it. Most fans don't look at that at it that analytically, but those that listen to wrestling podcasts, probably like you and others, do. And you know, I just think that yes, Cody is probably going to be the one that is the bridge between those two and bridges the differences or mends the differences between Kevin and Sammy that eventually unites them together to fight the bloodline. And it's got to happen soon. I mean, we're running out of time here. I know they're playing cat and mouse, and they know that the fans are waiting for this to happen, but we got to get to it. Like, can we just get to it so we can move on and have the match set and move forward with our lives? I don't know. I'm getting impatient. Like, let's just go, right? But they're playing cat and mouse, and they still got three shows to go. It's a lot of content. So, but thank you so much for listening. I'm glad you enjoyed the show, and that'll do it for us tonight on the WWE Podcast Mailbag. I really appreciate everybody calling in and emailing, taking the time out of your day or your night or your morning, whatever, because I know everyone's got busy lives. We're all doing, going 100 miles an hour with work and job, of course, work is your job, but family or problems and whatever. It's winter time. It's depressing, and but it's WrestleMania season. And it's right around the corner. It's March Madness. And then right around the corner from that is baseball season if you're a sports fan. And then the weather will be warmer, and we're out of the winter, and the days are longer, all that. So hopefully those are some positive words. And if you like video games and you like wrestling video games, hey, in a week, 2K23 comes out. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE Podcast. You can go starting at $1, gets you everything ad-free, and you go up in tier, you get video and other things. And Apple Podcasts also offers a ad-free option. Just click that ad-free button. You get a week completely free of ads for free. So, or WWEpodcast.com. You can go VIP there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate it. Take care. And as always, I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.